I wanted to share a little bit about the honor it has been knowing and enjoying Dick and all the meetings that I came to here and all the meetings that he came to at my house, which I had great reservations of shifting the meeting from here and feeling that, knowing that we were losing such a masterful study group leader. And that's the thing that really impressed me with Dick at the study groups is his concern for the knowledge of the Urantia book, his love of the Urantia book, the love of the truth, and the personal, more than anything, his personal conviction of the nature of God, and and it was so clear that when we would get caught up in some details about the book and, hey, does this, is this the literal interpretation, or is that, no, he went into his heart and he would know that, the Spirit giveth life, and he would, and he had this conviction, and when somebody at the group had a question, he was very perceptive, realized that, thought about it, and he was so adept at putting some of these very complicated issues into very common language, and he'd make an example that was very common. And I wish so much that I was able to offer that in my study group, the kind of understanding, leadership, and wisdom that he shared with us all. And I just, just such a remarkable individual. Loved him dearly as he loved so many others. And it was just a real honor to know him.
Bruce, in his last days, there was nothing that he enjoyed more than going to the study group at your house. So he passed the mantle well, no doubt.
I can echo Bruce's sentiments about the study group that was passed on to Bruce and Beth. And I know that was on Dick's short bucket list to ensure that the study group continued, and what a better fitting way to have Bruce and Beth to continue that. And he certainly enjoyed to continue to attend that study group up until he couldn't attend anymore. And during those Tuesday night study sessions, someone mentioned earlier, he did have a humorous side to him, and I'm not sure that Dick and I share the Endon Infantas or even Adam and Eve's humorous side. We tend to tell a lot of jokes, and I really enjoyed that part of it. The last joke he told me, and some of you may have heard of it, he started out by saying, JJ, my dad told me this when I was growing up. And so he mentioned that, he said, do you know the difference between a mechanical engineer and a mechanic? I said, no, Dick, I don't. He said, well, a mechanical engineer washes his hands after he pees. A mechanic washes his hand before he pees. And so he remembered that from his dad years and years ago, and he'd come up with these down to earth, and I just love the heck out of it, and I couldn't wait to get over here and visit with him whenever he was up for it. And a lot of times I would come to him for counsel and advice and his thoughts on things, and he would say, well, you got a quarter? He always wanted me to pay a quarter, just so it felt like it was worth something, I guess. And that was that legal brief stuff coming out. By the way, did Peggy read the fine print on that brief? I don't know. But
she hired a lawyer.
But a good portion of my life here in Phoenix area, I've been overseas. And the Apostle Andrew, Nathaniel, and Thomas, certain parts of them reminded me of Dick, or Dick reminded me of them. But most of all, David Zebedee really stood out for me, because when I was overseas, he always kept me in touch with all the things going on around town. And he was a voracious reader, and so I sort of just automatically relied on him to keep me abreast, and loved him dearly.
He was a great counselor. You brought that out. If you needed some advice about anything, He was the man that got through.
Yeah, hi, my name's Don Leisure, and I'm a friend of Dick's. And I met Dick and Peggy in 1986 at a rancha deal here in Phoenix, and got to become really close with him. His wife at the time wanted my wife at the time to open up a gift salon in Phoenix, in Vista, California. And she didn't do that, but I often wondered what would happen if we had done that. But I moved from Arizona to California, and then to Nevada, and I moved back here in 2010. And from like 2009 up until Dick got really sick, every Tuesday night, Dick and I would go to dinner, you know. He was my Al-Anon sponsor, and he was my very best friend, and he made me feel like I was his best friend. And I've never been as close to another human being as I have to Dick, outside of the relationship of a wife. And many times we'd go out to dinner, there'd be a young family that come in, and he'd hail the waiter and ask the waiter to come over. He'd said to the waiter, I want that guy's check, but he can't have any knowledge that I paid for it. So put yourself a nice tip on there. I don't want to pay for that family's dinner. I mean, he did that on numerous occasions. He was such a giving man, but up until the end, he had a brilliant mind, you know. And like other people have said before for me tonight here, that it was an honor to know him, and he's going to be really missed. Thanks.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Yes,
Howdy, baby.
I talk in the halfway house a lot, so I'm used to really talking loud and sure everyone can hear me okay. But he was like a second dad to me, and the thing about that was I never told him until recently. I would always talk about him as my second dad, and I finally told him, and he was like, oh, really? But anyway, I'm talking because of what Mike said about Mr. Sandoval. And Mike told me to come up here, but I remember him telling me that story before he told Mike. and how he agonized on how he was going to tell Mike about, I don't think we should charge this guy so much. And it was really a tough thing for him to do that sort of thing, because he knew how Mike felt about business, and it was business to Mike. But I just wanted you to know, and that's even more special, that he would do something like that. But I remember him agonizing over things like that. I remember him apologizing to somebody from 30 years before because he left the firm, and he told me about that, and he felt guilty after all those years. Anyway, the rest is kind of personal, unique, and special, but everyone has that with Dick. Something personal, special, and unique. And I realized it couldn't just be for me, but I'll keep those for me. Thanks.
I'm certain that our planet would be so much closer right in life if we had the values that Dick Johnson had.
So someone mentioned GB earlier, and I realized I needed to bring up one of my memories, which is of going to the cabin on several occasions, and Dick's generosity in letting me drive GB as a very small child gave me the opportunity of getting in my first car accident as a very small child. Driving into a ditch at a nice 45-degree angle. Every time power steering goes on in my car, I think of that and how difficult it was to turn the steering wheel, and that sobering moment of Dick very clearly telling me to get out of the driver's seat so that he could fix the situation. But that aside, I just wanted to share, so it's been mentioned the study groups that have used to be held here, now held at my parents' home. And my memories of coming to the study group, I didn't really participate in adult discussion when I was a kid, but I was playing in the other room. But I remember very clearly every time coming over here or encountering Dick anywhere, just his very obvious, sincere enthusiasm to see me. And he would just, woofie! And always call me this. And just give me this big hug and this sparkle in his eyes. And to me, that was the most meaningful thing as a kid, more than being told any sort of intellectual gem. Just, you know, him really showing his love for me. And, you know, we weren't particularly, I mean, I don't know that it's probably a bit closer to a lot of you than me, but that was really meaningful to me.
Let's all be like that. Let's all greet each other with that kind of enthusiasm, because it does wonders for anybody's self-esteem.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. He was good at it. No.
Thank you. I always refer to Dick as Dick of Urantia because, you know, he was the one that was kind of the central character in bringing me into the Urantia community. I met him and Peggy for the first time in 1981 at Larry's house at one of his meetings, and then after that I started meetings over on the west side. He made everybody feel like they were you know, his best friend, and you know, I just loved him for it, and I miss him and Peggy. I'm a gearhead, so one of the things that, you know, everybody was talking about, the red Jeep, and there was another vehicle that they had was that powder blue Chevy. Does anybody remember that old powder blue Chevy? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a cool car, and you know, Dick didn't let me drive that one, but I did drive the Jeep one. Yeah, I'm gonna miss going up to the cabin, and I'm gonna miss all you people. I'll be seeing some of you around, but yeah, it's a lovely life. We're all going to be together again.
Yeah.
Something wonderful. Who else drove GB? Well, it's still up there, and I think GB will,
Hey, Ruth, I crashed it too.
probably some others did too.
That was my badge of honor.
Well, that's how you learn. That's how you learn. So you can't do it for the kids. You gotta let them learn. Please, anybody else? There's certainly some other memories of the wonderful man.
I'm Jeannie, and I've been blessed to know Dick, and I've not known him as long as so many of you have. I was just thinking about how, and I shared this with somebody else too, and they agreed that when Dick and I were talking, it's like there was nobody else in the whole world. He has this way of just this direct connection that makes every person feel so just valued. And I've never in my whole life met anybody else where there was that, I don't know what it was about him. And something else at study groups, I haven't been reading as long as other people, and some of the things I just wouldn't get. And I'd ask a question during the study group, and he would come up after the study group and ask if I had got my question answered and if I understood it. And he would take time to help me understand more and make sure that I was okay with what was going on. And just something that's so precious and sweet that I've never forgotten. I was over here one day and he was helping me with taxes. Well, no, I mean, he was doing my taxes. And so the bird was just squawking and making all this noise. And there was like this 40s or 50s music going. And so he got the bird and was holding the bird and just dancing with the bird and singing to it. It was just the most beautiful. It was just the most tender, beautiful, and precious thing I've ever seen. Dick has so many amazing qualities and such a depth of character and such a humility and sincerity and that has always left me speechless except for right now. So anyway, it really, sharing what everybody else has said, it's been such an honor to know him.
Anyone else, please come forward.
would just like to say that I didn't know Dick a long time. I moved here in 2011, and when I called about a book study group, he answered the phone. And it was such a pleasant conversation that I thought, okay, I'm going to drive over there. I'm going to go see what it's like. And it was the best study group I ever was in. Of course, I hadn't been in too many. I was trying to hold them on my own and not doing too good. And anyway, there was a time when I needed counseling. And he gave me counseling that was perfect for my situation. And thank God I followed it. And I just think he was a wonderful person. And it reminds me kind of what I would think a Melchizedek would be doing, helping us, counseling us. And he reached so many people in his lifetime. Just a wonderful person. So, and I love him.
Please, Kelly. Mark. Mark beat you up here.
Mark Synergy.
I'm loud too. Everybody's pretty much covered how Dick was. He was a sensitive person. He seemed all rough, but inside, he really felt things. There's a story he told me one time about when he was working at the Faith House. This girl used to come in and would complain to him all the time and tell him this was wrong and these people were doing that. And he said, I get so mad I have to bite my tongue because everything that she was doing was her own fault. And I had no advice for her. So he said he used to hide from her because he didn't want to. Anyhow, he said one time finally she came in and he said, Mark, I unloaded on her. I told her everything that she was doing wrong and how she's blaming everybody else but herself. And he said she stood up, turned around, walked out the door, slammed the door, and that was the last time he saw her. He agonized over that. He said, I went over to Betty's office and said, Betty, I just did this, did I do the wrong thing, and he said he agonized over that for years about, he thought he just sent this girl out, and ruined her life. Anyhow, years later, he's giving a talk at an AA meeting, and he sees this woman out in the audience and he recognizes her. He's tons. And he said after the talk, she came up to him and said, do you remember me? And he said, well, you look familiar. And she said, I was that girl that you really told off and said so many things to me. And you know what? I got so mad at you that I decided I'm just going to change my life. And she said, and that's my husband, and those are my kids, and I'm doing wonderful now, and it's all because of you. That's Dick in a nutshell. Everybody said when he looked at you, you knew that you were the only person there, and he was listening intently to you, and he didn't see any bad. He always saw the good in people. He was my counselor, he was my mentor, and he was a very dear friend. And I love him very much. That's it.
I've heard that story before too.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And it,
I don't know if you guys have heard this story because I really didn't know about it for a long time. And that is, I met Dick when I was a young man coming down from Colorado. I met Dick and Peggy, and they helped me out a number of times in life. And I very much appreciate the things that happened with Dick and Peggy. But I have a friend named Diane, and Diane is a woman who had cancer and has been struggling. And I didn't quite understand what was happening, but I found out that right up until the end, Dick was ministering to Diane in his serious time when he was struggling with his own health. And I can tell you, he did her so much good. And I let him know that, and I was glad I was able to, but he really did. And he had a way of bringing her up out of her depression and giving her hope and strength. And I know that she would like to have been here today. And she just wasn't able to get today. But I'll say thank you on behalf Have a good day.
Any others? Anybody else?
Hello, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Beth, and I'm from Oklahoma City. And I got to know Dick because Tom Allen stole Karen away from Arizona and brought her to Oklahoma City. And it's been interesting listening to what you all have had to say about Dick because it reminds me of a person in our Rancho community in Oklahoma City that the things you said about Dick remind me of Berkeley Elliott. People would say, when you were talking to her, it was like you were the only person in the room. And I've heard you all say that. So that's, and I didn't know Dick was like that, so wow. That's about the highest praise we can say in Oklahoma City is somebody was like Berkeley Elliott.
You would even walk around with a coffee pot at the study group for people's cups, just like
Yeah.
And he adored your Berkeley.
Well, excuse me. In 1995, April, we had the Murrah bombing in Oklahoma City. I'm sure you all, many of you remember that. And Dick contacted some of us in Oklahoma City and wanted to do something. And he sent money so that the people that were affected by the bombing in Oklahoma City, so that he could contribute to that. He said it was him and some other concerned people in Arizona. So I assume it was. And so he gave us, I helped to get this money on its way. And part of the money, the majority of the money, I put in this educational fund for the children of the people who died in the bombing, that they could go to college if they wanted to. But he also wanted to have something that was immediate. And so I contacted this girl at work, and through her church, she found a lady whose husband had died. He was a preacher, and he was taking somebody to the Social Security office, which was on the first floor of the Murrah building, and he was there. They were both there, and they perished when it happened, and they had 5 kids. And we, through this girl that I was working with, we took cash, $600 that Dick sent us to this lady and gave it to her so that she could, just to help her through some of the hard times. Anyway, I just always remembered how Dick did that, reached out to the people in Oklahoma City. Did you know that, Tom?
He was the man, thank you for ringing his bell, because he would not ring it himself. You know what I mean? So, that is a true spiritual person. You want some more? Please tell us more. This girl's, she knows Dick well.
Oh, I've known Dick forever. But I just thought I would share with you a few things that somebody hadn't even come up with. You praised him and said such wonderful things about him. He had some little mundane things too that he did. We were a group that went to Mexico. There was one of our friends had a cabin down there. Stell. No, it wasn't Stell. But they had a place down there. Yeah, I think they did have one too. Anyway, this was another one that I can remember because the whole bunch of us were there together. We'd finished eating a wonderful meal. We'd gone out on the deck, which was level with the ground. And this was right close to the water. So a lot of wind blew the dirt up on the deck. And I remember Dick Johnson picked up a broom and went over and swept that deck with all that dirt on it. Nobody else did it. They didn't do it for the lady who had the house. But Dick did it. And I thought, my gosh, what a wonderful man. I sure do wish I had a Dick.
Well, I got lined up to go over to her house to Swede. He'll take the service. Nick?
So the son-in-laws and
Son-in-laws.
yeah, my name's Kevin and I'm Sherry's husband and most of you know me. Richard and Peggy, Poppy Peggy. As you know, we're the most accepting and yes, accepting and generous people that I knew, and not from a generous of give you things, but a generous of give you them, obviously, as you know. And coming into the family, you never know about your in-laws. you know who you love, and so coming into the family and having such wonderful in-laws, and having Peggy in particular, she rolls around in my head certainly on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, things that Peggy told me, and things that Peggy stood for, and things that Peggy, the person she was, brutally honest, absolutely upfront, absolutely, understood time, understood how limited time was, understood how precious the moments were. And so she would tell me from the very get-go exactly what it was, what she was thinking, what she was feeling, and it changed my life forever, for sure. Peggy changed my life forever, as did Poppy, and in such a different way. Because he wasn't as self-confident. It wasn't as forceful about, it is this way, this is how you will do it. I mean, that's how Peggy approached it. Kevin, it is X, and it was X. And Poppy was much more like, it could be X, but remember to consider Y, Z, A, B, C, D, and everything else, and send your mind a reeling about, there's lots of things going on. But loved us, and from beginning to end. And he's my buddy. I got to spend, just incredibly blessed, honestly, in the last 3 years to spend as much time as I could, obviously with my kids and my family, but to spend that time with Poppy and to glean from him his wisdom about life and his questions about life. Again, it's X, it could be X, it could be something else. Think about it, and to open your mind, and to really think about things. And that's how our relationship was. We talked a lot about the book. We talked a lot about life and people, and talked a lot about you all and how much he loves you. He loves you, and of course we'll all be together soon. But just the warmth and acceptance